we're going to get underway here. We're going to line up the Scramble Am kids and do our Scramble class here first. As this show progresses, I'd like to give a few thanks because this show is put on by a lot of people who have contributed, who have given time to these kids, and so we're going to thank them now. First, Nate, Kate, and Allison Skirvin, David Berry and family, Emily Berry, the Kaufman family, Madison Short, and Carrie Wright. Will you please give them a round of applause? The lambs were provided by Tony Bryan. If anybody is an aspiring sheep showman, this would be a good way to join the barn. You just have to sign up with the superintendent, or in the barn there's a sheet as well. When you start this project, you get a lamb that is donated to you. You get a bag of feed, a bucket, a halter, and a brush. And then you also get the expert advice of our senior members in the barn, and they'll help you through the project. So if anybody is interested in doing this in the future, please contact us and we'll get you signed up.
a nice group of young people and lambs out here in this scramble class. Let's give these kids a big round of applause. You get into a class like this, it certainly presents you a little bit of challenges in the fact that you've got a bunch of novice kids that are learning the ropes on a project, and you deal with the lambs that you're dealt. And I think with that, what we've got is everybody has a little bit different level or degree of feeding, and certainly at that point, a feed bucket can be a huge tool to use. And I think at the top end of this class, that is going to be the big deciding factor of what separated the top half of the class from the bottom half of the class. Because at this point in time, these lambs are going to be basically, I'm evaluating them as they're market ready. So I want lambs that are going to be correct in terms of their condition, as ideal as possible in terms of their weight. So when I get out here and I start to analyze this particular class, the young lady's lamb that we're going to start the class with kind of moves to the top of the class very nicely. A lamb that's long in his spine, he's still got enough muscle shape and dimension. A lamb that has a fair amount of expression when we compare him to some of the other lambs in the class, and a lamb that is correct as anything in the class in terms of his weight and in terms of his finish. She's done a very nice job. The lamb is presented extremely nice. A very nice lamb to start this scramble class. Let's give her a big round of applause. The young man's lamb here in second, a lamb that I like extremely well the way that she's built. She's very correct. She's very, from the side view standpoint, when we get behind her, she shows me ample amount of muscling down that top and down through that leg. And the thing is I like her as well as anything in this particular class as far as the way she's put together. The difference that I have between her and my first place lambs is just sheer size and a little bit of lack of condition compared to what we have in the lamb in first. But the young man's done a very nice job with her. She just simply is a few pounds smaller. I'd like to see her a little bit bigger to be to a little more of the ideal market weight, but a very nice lamb here in second as well. The young lady's lamb here in third, I think, follows suit very closely. This lamb, though, if we analyze it compared to the two lambs above it, wants to get a little bit rounder out over the top of that tail. Doesn't have the muscle shape that we see over the top of that rump in comparison to our class winner and our second place lamb. But a lamb that's very nicely conditioned for her size. She's done a very nice job with it as well. Let's give her a round of applause. The young man's lamb coming here in fourth. Once again, done a very nice job getting this lamb conditioned and ready. This lamb gets a little bit shorter from flank to flank when we do it side. We get back and we study this guy, or this ewe lamb. She gets a little more pinched out over that tail head. As far as she's a little bit narrower in terms of that fin set. That fin set being that bone there in the hip structure that gives us the width and that dimension. This one's just a little bit more, is lacking that. Doesn't have that width. I'd like to see her leveler with a little more dimension and terminal shape when I view her from behind. But a very nice kind of lamb, and once again, finished and conditioned very nicely. Let's give him a big round of applause. Now this is kind of the cutoff for me. When we get down into the next couple lambs, these guys probably could have stood maybe just a little less protein, maybe a little more corn to get a little bit of that finish on here at the end. And granted, some of them are a little smaller frame, maybe younger lambs that weren't quite mature enough to really finish the way we want, but they've done a very nice job. The young man's lamb coming next. I like this one from a skeletal design standpoint. We look at her, she's got some capacity and some rib and some dimension. She's got some shape up to that rack. She just simply needs more time on feet to really bloom and fill out what she needs. She's probably a little later mature than the couple lambs ahead of her, but really is long in that spine, has some length. I certainly appreciate that. This one wants to get a little bit flatter in terms of that leg muscle when we go from the side and from behind. But certainly a lamb that I do appreciate for a length of body. I appreciate this lamb in terms of that expression of the rack. I just need to give a little more condition on her to move her any higher. The weather here coming next certainly is kind of the same deal. This guy, though, he wants to shorten up a little bit from flank to flank, meaning that he just simply isn't his long body. He wants to get a little bit rounder out through that hip. The young man's done a nice job with him as far as presenting. He just needs a little bit more time on feet, buddy. He just needs a little more fat over those ribs to make him ideal for market. But a project you've done a very nice job on. Then we get the young ladies' lambs coming next here, this next pair. Both of these guys just simply need a little more time on feet, need a little bit more fat to be more ideal and correct in terms of that market. But a very nice class of scramble lambs. Let's give these kids a big round of applause and go head on out.
Congratulations to all the exhibitors. Next up, we will be moving on to the carcass class. We have 5 entries. First place in the scramble lamb class went to Jory Beasley. Second place, Bronson Cooper. Third place, Jana Flater. Fourth place, Aiden Cooper. Fifth place, Dylan Hughes. Sixth place, Jace Slater. Seventh place, Bailey Turner. And 8th place, Sophia Blanton. Give them all a round of applause. We can go ahead and bring in our 5 carcass lambs, please. Class 2, market lambs, please make your way to the ring. Class 2, market lambs, please make your way to the ring.
Anytime you get a chance to judge a carcass lamb show, it's certainly a bit of a challenge because you got to kind of rearrange some of your priorities when you start talking about structure and the way things are laid in. And obviously, I need them to be sound and sound enough. And I think we've got some lambs out here that certainly combine that. But I think when we come out here and we start to look at these lambs exclusively on how they're going to cut and how they're going to hang on the rail, to me, my personal opinion, we've got one that kind of sorts himself to the top, and that's a young man's smoked lamb that's up here. A lamb that I guess if I was going to judge him as a combination, you know, I'd argue maybe I'd like to make him a little neater fronted or maybe just a little fancier in his lines, but you know, he's put together pretty good. He's really wide, and you have to certainly appreciate that. But I guess where we start to really break this guy down and analyze him is when we look at him coming out from behind those shoulders. Comes out in the big old wide open rack. He's by far one of the widest back to that loin, carries back very good into that hip. Where I think he excels the rest of the class is when we start measuring that depth of that loin. I think he is very deep. I would like to say that he's definitely going to cut one of the bigger eyes in the class, and I think he's probably going to, I would think he'd yield grade pretty well. In terms of the fact that I think he's very correct in terms of his finish. He's shown me a very nice uniform finish over the ribs. He carries down very nice in terms of that finish in the flank. I think he's going to have a very nice kind of a leg score. To me, this guy sorts himself out and gives me a nice starter in this class. Where I struggle a little bit here is my next three. We've got some different types and kinds in terms of the way they're built and put together. The lamb I like here in second. He's going to follow our class winner pretty close in terms of body type. This guy, I'm concerned, is going to have a little bit more condition and a little bit more cover over him. I don't see him being quite as deep in terms of that loin as what we have in our class winner. But a lamb that certainly has a lot of shape. He has a lot of width and dimension. He's going to cut a very good leg score. Like I said, he's going to be a little bit heavier in terms of that condition today. But I think he's got a little more dimension through that loin, down through that leg, than what we have in our lamb in third. Our lamb in third, a lamb that I really like in terms of its profile and its extension. A lamb that certainly measures well, but a lamb that when I start to analyze this guy, he just don't have quite as much depth and dimension through that loin as what we see in some of the lambs above him. But a lamb that you certainly have to appreciate. The young lady's got him very, very fresh, and he's very correct in terms of that condition today. If this guy cuts a little bigger loin than what I think, he could very easily move himself a spot or two higher in that carcass show. But a lamb that I think is very nice in his own right. A lamb that I like an awful lot. To me, he's very practical. But in this particular class where we're looking at how they're going to cut, this is the way I see him so far. The young lady's lamb here in fourth. A lamb that just gets a little shorter and compact for me. I don't see this guy being as fresh to the handle today as what we see in the three lambs above him, but a lamb that you certainly have to appreciate. He's still going to garner a pretty good kind of a muscle support. I think he's going to cut a desirable enough size loin eye, and certainly is going to be acceptable enough in terms of that finish. Very nice kind of lamb here in fourth as well. And as we get down into fifth, a lamb that just simply doesn't have the muscle shape or the terminal shape is what we see in the lambs above him, but a lamb that he's going to probably be on the lean side of things. Lean is in terms of maybe not even having enough condition on him to really be able to hang in the cooler for the time they want to be able to cool these carcasses out and be able to, they use that condition to kind of protect that carcass while they're hanging. So I'm concerned that he's going to be too lean, but a lamb that certainly has the skeletal size. You could see him with a little more condition today, I think would have been desirable. But a very nice class of carcass lambs. Let's give these kids a big round of applause.
Next up in the show ring is our first class of crossbred market lambs. Please bring in your crossbred market lambs to start the show. In your carcass class, first place went to Zachary Kaufman, second, Seth Arians, third, Kaylee Rowings, fourth, Keely Parent, and fifth, Madison Moore. Congratulations.
this lightweight crossbred class. We certainly have a really nice lamb to start this particular class with. As you can see, we can check her out on the move right now, but really nice kind of lamb. Lamb that not only profiles well, gets out and moves extremely well, but a lamb that you certainly have to appreciate when you get your hands on it. A lamb that is very expressive in terms of that top. Hang on, young man. Wait, I don't want to miss anybody. Make sure we get everybody going where we need to go. But a really nice lamb to start this class off with. Very square about her edges, really good out through that tail head, very extended up to that front. Still a tremendous amount of terminal shape and by far the most correctly finished in this particular class. As we get down in the second, a lamb that to me is the next most complete, a lamb that has some muscle shape and when I handle it up over that rack, it's got a little bit of shape up over that rack. It just needs a little more time on feet. It needs a little more growth to get him more ideal in terms of that condition, but a lamb that certainly is productive enough in terms of his makeup. Same way with the lamb here in third, lamb that you have to appreciate for a length of body. Pretty long kind of a lamb that measures pretty well from the 13th rib on back. This lamb just doesn't stay as straight in terms of that top line. Maybe doesn't have quite the squareness out over the top of that tail head is what we see in the two lambs above him, but a very nice lamb in his own right. Then the young lady's lamb there in fourth. We chatted for just a second, and this little guy got kind of sick on her there earlier in the year, and I'm glad to see him. He's getting back to health, and you got him out here, and you've presented him very well. You know, it's something that is always a struggle. Sheep seem like they have a tendency to do that, along with a lot of other animals, is find ways to get sick. But I applaud you for continuing your project and finding out what was wrong with it. So very nice job out here, guys. Very nice lamb to start this class. Let's give them a round of applause.
Next up in the show ring is Class 2 Crossbred Market Lambs. In Class 1, first place went to Colin Short, second, Emma Summers, third, Emma Summers, and fourth, Dale Thomas. Congratulations.
particular class, we've got a nice pair of lambs up here at the top of the class, and there's some things that maybe I'd like to change about each one of them. But the lamb we're going to start with, when the young lady gets in position, this lamb wins the class real easy. Where he struggles to stay at the top of the class is when we put him in motion. This guy is a little bit shorter hip, therefore he's a little bit shorter strided, and really pretty wide for his size in terms of that pin set. And with that, he really doesn't want to handle those back legs quite the way I'd like him to. When she gets him propped up and driving, though, this guy is pretty elevated about that chest. He's good in terms of his lines. He's super square and a lot over that hip. He measures long enough from that 13th rib on back, and he's correct enough in terms of that finishing condition today. Like I said, I'd like to see him a little bit move a little freer, but in this particular weight class, he's going to be good enough and sound enough to be able to do that. Now, I don't know how this guy's going to do if you were to keep him on feed and feed him to 140, whether that soundness issue would turn around and bite you. But in this particular class, I think he's good enough and combines enough good things. We're going to use him to start this class. Young ladies, ewe-lamb here in a second. A lamb that I like in terms of when I get my hands on her. A lamb that's pretty expressive down that top, carries out pretty nice over that hip. She wants to roll a little bit more over that hip than the lamb that we start the class with. If she was perfect on that over that tail hip, and maybe ideal in terms of her set to her hock and her rear leg posture, we would probably have started the class with her. But I need to change a couple things on her in order to move her to that spot. But two really nice kind of lambs here in first and second. Lamb here in third, I think logically falls into place. We look at this one as the next best design lamb in the class, a lamb that's the straightest in his lines of the two remaining. I like him down that top line as far as his levelness in comparison to our fourth place lamb, but a lamb that just doesn't have the muscle shape as what we have in the lambs in first and second. If I could give this guy a little bit more muscling down that top and down into that leg, we could have maybe moved him up a spot, but he just needs some more terminal shape for me to use any higher. The young man's lamb coming next, a lamb that you certainly have to appreciate him from a production standpoint. A lamb that's going to be a good, in terms of feedlot, in terms of converting grain to pounds. He just isn't the prettiest thing to look at as far as his conformation. He gets a little easy in his top, maybe not as square about his lines, but a very good, profitable kind of lamb. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
Next up in the show ring is Class 3 of Crossbred Market Lambs. In Class 2, first place went to Handley Everman. Second place to Mackenzie Miles. Third place, Bailey Haddon. And fourth place, Luke Ames. Go ahead and bring in Class 3, please.
really nice lamb to start this class off with. A lamb that fits me really well. A lamb that's extended enough in terms of his design and his skeletal structure to me that shows me that he's not going to be locked in here at a real lightweight. He's very ideal at this particular weight for his condition. I like his length of body. I like his length of hip. He carries down into a pretty nice, he balances pretty good and gets out and he moves pretty well. Certainly a very nice kind of a lamb to start this class off with. Without a doubt, probably one of the thickest made lambs in the class here in second. A lamb that you really have to appreciate her for her overall width. This one just gets too short in terms of her skeleton for me. You'll probably hear me talk about it throughout the day, but I appreciate the squareness and the thickness of these guys, but when we get them in such a small box that we're limited to having to give them more days on feed to get them to where we need to be, I guess from a production standpoint, I struggle with that just a little bit. She's awful good. She's just simply too small and too compact for me to use, but a unit certainly is square about her edges. She's also starting to get just a little bit more cover on her, especially at this particular weight. Young man's lamb coming next, a lamb that shows me the next most terminal shape and width. He's awful green and raw, as is the next lamb coming. I'd like to see both of these lambs with a little bit more time on feed to really develop and get that conditioning over those ribs that they need. I think they would certainly do even better and be able to bloom up just a little bit and look a little more presentable out here in the show ring. But a nice class of lambs. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
In Class 3 of crossbred market lambs, first place went to Mackenzie Miles. Second place, Brody Parent. Third place, Colin Short. And in fourth place, Grace Kincaid. Next up is Class 4 crossbred market lambs.
little more difficult class to kind of line up. I've certainly got some bits and pieces out here that I really like. To find one that really combines all those is maybe a little bit more of a struggle in this particular class. But the young man's lamb that we're going to start with, to me, a lamb that certainly has by far the most terminal shape and dimension to him. A lamb that maybe gets a little wavier in that top line, I guess, at times than I like. But some of it is he maybe doesn't get out there and show for the young man quite as well as some of the others. But this lamb here has got just a tremendous amount of product. Extremely wide through that rack, extremely wide through the loin, really, really wide and expressive up over the top of that hip. When you view this guy from behind, he's got a tremendous amount of true base width. He certainly has, he certainly balances good enough when you view him from the side for as thick as he is. He carries down very well through that loin. I like a lamb that will cut really well. A lamb that maybe isn't as pretty as what I necessarily like, but in this particular class, I think he's the best lamb in this drive to win this class. As we get down in the second, once again, if I could square this lamb up in terms of those back legs, we could have certainly made this a little bit closer placing. I like this lamb when the young lady gets him set up and driving. He's pretty. He's by far the prettiest lamb in the class. But when I get my hands on him, and especially when I at depth of loin, he just simply doesn't have even remotely close to what our class winner does. And he just doesn't handle those back legs well enough for me when we put him in motion. If we could fix those back legs, like I said, we could have bumped him up here a spot. But in this particular class, that's the way I see him. As we move into third, a lamb that I think is probably the next most ideally finished lamb, a lamb that has some expression up through that rack. He runs out of shape and terminal value when we get back and when we get over top of that tail head. He has the least amount of expression or muscling out through the top of that hip and down into that leg of our top three lambs. But certainly another very nice lamb, a lamb that I think is pretty correct in terms of that finish today. Our next two lambs coming just really conformationally, they need a little bit of help in terms of that brisket, in terms of that top line. Just give them a little bit more muscle shape when we do them from behind. But the lambs that I think are certainly good enough growing lambs, I just like to give them a little bit more added value from a terminal standpoint. Very nice group of lambs. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
First place in Class 4, current crossbred market lambs goes to Zachary Kaufman. Second, Grace Kincaid. Third, Allison Skirvin. Fourth, Aubrey Bennett. And fifth, Madison Moore. Next up is crossbred market lamb Class 5.
classes like this make it really difficult from a judge's standpoint, because I know what it looks like ringside. A lot of people don't like the lamb that's standing in second. The young lady way outshows the young man. The lamb's presented a lot nicer, and the lamb presents a pretty nice picture. When we get in and we start to study this class, though, to me it would be a shame if I would beat this lamb. That we are judging the lambs and not showmanship right now. This is an awful nice one. I think if this young man would take the initiative to get this gal set up and showed properly, it certainly make my life a lot easier, and it certainly makes it a lot easier for me making the argument on the mic. This is probably the most powerful and most naturally opened up of anything in the class. A lamb that's got a tremendous amount of three-dimensional muscle. A lamb that's got a tremendous amount of depth through that loin. And I think where she excels the lamb in second is not only that depth and dimension through the loin, but also that true three-dimensional muscle through the leg. And also she's much neater in terms of her finish today, over the rib and down into that flank. Is she presented as nice? No. Does she maybe provide as good a silhouette from the side? No. And some of that, I think, can be attributed if we could just get that lamb pulled up and stuck and braced. It would certainly make my life a lot easier. I certainly don't want to discount the young lady here in second, because she's done a great job as far as getting this guy shown. But when I get my hands on him, he's just really starting to lay that condition over the ribs. He's really starting to get fat in those flanks. And for as much as he's got on the rib and in the flank, he's still not as full through that loin as what I'd like him to be. He provides us a really nice silhouette. I like him about his squareness. When she gets him propped up and driving, he looks really good. I don't see him carrying down as deep through that twist or as deep through that lower portion of the leg as what our class winner does. But a lamb that I think, in terms of the way he is constructed, you certainly have to give him that respect, and he's going to sit in his second hole. As we move into third, another lamb that's certainly got a tremendous amount of product. This lamb just gets a little bit off in terms of that rear leg posture. I'd like to see this lamb maybe handle those hocks just a little bit better. And with that, she wants to get a little bit round up over the upper portion of that hip. But a lamb that's got a tremendous amount of product. It's gonna cut and hang a very nice kind of a carcass. A lamb that just isn't maybe as neat to look at when we view her from the side as the two lambs that we have standing above her. A real big range and kind of a lamb coming in fourth. A lamb that I certainly appreciate in terms of that length of skeleton and length of spine. This guy just needs a little more time on feet to really get that condition on that he needs to be competitive today. But a very nice group of lambs. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
Next up in the show ring is Crossbred Market Lamb Class 6. In Class 5, first place went to Eric Hinkle. Second, Freely Eastep. Third, Zachary Kaufman. And fourth, Darnell Bennett. Congratulations.
Really nice class of lambs here, and unlike the other classes, I think we've got two up here that you could move and use either way, and certainly make an argument and a case for it. I think we're going to use a lamb that, to me, that hits me the hardest when he walks in and when he's on the move. A lamb that I certainly like a lot of things about. I like him about his edges. I like him about that shape down that top. He's got a tremendous amount of terminal shape. A lamb that I guess if I'm going to change him a bit, maybe I'd like to make him just a nickel longer from flank to flank for my liking. But a lamb that when he gets out and he moves, he really holds himself together extremely well. A lamb that you have to appreciate whether he's coming or going away from you. Very nice kind of a lamb. Young lady's lamb here in second, a lamb that I really do like a great deal. I like this guy in terms of that length of body. Where I struggle with him a bit is he just wants to get a little piecier when we get him out and we put him in motion. I'd like to see him keep that top line in him. He's starting maybe to show some maturity up to that front end. I'd like to see him just a little neater when we view him from the side up to that front end and tie him into that rib. But he's certainly extremely fresh. I just like to see him a little truer when he gets out and he's on the move. The young man's lamb coming next, the lamb is certainly pretty neat about his muscle shape. He just doesn't have quite enough of it, is a little bit staler to the touch today than the two lambs we have standing above him, but another very nice, very useful kind of a lamb. Same goes for the young man ewe lamb coming next. A lamb that I certainly appreciate for her length of body. She's got a tremendous amount of dimension of muscle. She just doesn't have quite the look, and she's starting to put a little bit of extra fat on over those ribs and down into that flank. Very nice class of lambs. Let's give them a round of applause.
Next up in the show ring is Class 7 Crossbred Market Lambs. In Class 6, first place, Lane Parent. Second place, Keeley Parent. Third place, Eric Hinkle. And fourth place, Elijah Chandler. Congratulations.
Really nice lamb to start this class with. A lamb that I certainly appreciate when he gets out on the move. A lamb that he doesn't want to cooperate with the young lady very well, but a lamb that's extremely fresh and good in terms of that handle. He handles with some width and some dimension down that top, and he certainly has some true base when he gets in, and moves away from you. You certainly have to appreciate that three-dimensional muscle when you view him from behind. A lamb that I certainly like in terms of his extension through his skeleton. To me, that's where he really excels our lamb here in second. Lamb here in second, a lamb that is maybe a notch longer-sided lamb, but a lamb that gets really kind of coarse and wasty through that lower portion of that chest and that brisket. He's starting to lay a little extra condition and fat on. He doesn't handle with the shape out through the top portion of that hip. Like I said, he is a notch longer from flank to flank. but a lamb that to me just today just doesn't handle with that freshness, doesn't show me that look when you get them out and put them in motion as what we see in our class winner. A real big, long, extended kind of a lamb here in third. A lamb that just gives up too much in terms of muscle, mass, and dimension to the lambs ahead of him. A lamb that's pretty elevated to that chest. I just like to see this guy, he's starting to get on almost the too big in terms of skeletal size. I certainly appreciate, though, he's still lean and still fresh to that handle. Very nice kind of a lamb as well. Then a young man's lamb coming next. Certainly a good doing kind of a lamb that's very productive. Very profitable kind of an animal. Got enough rib and dimension. He's certainly got enough muscle shape and substance to him. I just like to put it in a little neater package.
Next up in the show ring are crossbred market lamb pairs. In Class 7 crossbred market lambs, first place, Grace Carr. Second place, Madison Short. Third place, Grace Burge. And fourth place, Jacob Pearl. Congratulations.
In this pair class, I think we've got two really nice pair of lambs. First place here on this end, again, young ladies' lambs are really nice and uniform. They're very similar in terms of their skeletal style and design. They've got some muscle shape and dimension to them. I certainly like that about them. I think they're a little more uniform in terms of their condition today than our pair we have here in second. Our pair in second, we've got the class winner out of the lightweight class. I certainly like the way she's put together. The weather's just a little bigger and maybe doesn't have quite the muscle shape and dimension what we see in the other lambs in the class. But he's also on the lean side. I'd like to give him a little bit more condition today to make that pair a little more uniform, to threaten his top pair a little bit harder. But a very nice group of lambs out here. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
Next up on the show ring, we're going to move on to Dorset Advantage Market Lambs. Next up will be Class 1 Dorset Advantage Market Lambs. Your champion crossbred market lamb pair went to Mackenzie Miles. Reserve champion to Colin Short. Congratulations.
Dorset Advantage class here, and these dropper-faced lambs, and then the eyeball lamb down there. We've got we got quality all the way from top to bottom. Lamb, I'm going to start with a lamb that suits me really well. Lamb that handles with a tremendous amount of shape down on top. He's extremely fresh in terms of that condition. Handles with a lot of dimension down through that leg. Still balances that up into a pretty nice type of skeletal package. A lamb that's long and level, still extended enough. I guess if you want to be real critical, he starts to maybe get just a little deeper in terms of that brisket. But this guy's pretty square and made. He's awful nice kind of a sheep to start this class with. I think we got a really good one here to follow with here in reserve. A lamb that I like in terms of her terminal shape. She again gets just a little bit quick in terms of her maturity, in terms of her skeletal size. I just simply like to extend her out just a little bit to make her just a little bigger in her kind. But I tell you what, she's got a tremendous amount of shape. She's got a tremendous amount of depth and dimension through that loin eye. Carries down very good into that leg. And I think that's where she excels the lamb here in third. The young man's lamb here in third does a great job with her. He gets her propped up, and she's really neat to look at from the side. Where I struggle with her bit is when we get her out and we put her in motion, she wants to get a little bit lower in that front. She wants to come apart just a little bit from that shoulder back into that forerib, and she doesn't flow quite as nicely as these two lambs we have standing above her. But he does a great job. He's certainly done a very good job presenting her. I just like to see her a little bit neater in terms of her overall skeletal design. The young lady, eyeball lamb down here, a lamb that I certainly appreciate. He's young and certainly kind of gets outforced and outpowered in this class. She does a really nice job with him. He's got a good touch to him. You just simply don't have enough muscle shape today to compete with the bigger lambs above you. But a very nice group of lambs. Just give these kids a round of applause. Really nice pair of speckled-faced lambs here. Lambs that are certainly very uniform in terms of their type and kind. We got a little bit of difference in terms of size, I guess, but in terms of muscle shape and just overall value, both of these lambs have a tremendous amount of it. Very nice group out here in this pair.
Next up in the show is our Dorset Market Lamb class. In our Dorset Advantage Market Lamb Class 1, first place went to Gretchen Carr. Second place, Gretchen Carr. Third place, Tyler Wright. And fourth place, Allie Rice. In the Dorset Advantage Market Lamb Pair class, Gretchen Carr was first place. Congratulations.
Young ladies, Dorset Market Lamb out here could certainly have stood a lot of competition. This lamb is very nice in terms of her makeup and her design. She's correct enough in terms of that finish. A lamb that certainly has some muscle shape down that top and out through that hip and balances out pretty nice from the side view standpoint. Let's give her a round of applause.
First place, Dorset Market Lamb went to Hallie Rice. Next up in the class is our Hampshire Market Lamb Show. We're looking for Class 1 to begin the show. Bring them in when you're ready.
relatively simple decision for me in this particular class. A lamb I like pretty well here to start with. A lamb is pretty angular and it's designed to get a lamb that when the young lady gets him out moving, he looks really good. A lamb that you get your hands on him, he's got a really nice touch to him. He's certainly very attractive from a profile standpoint, but when you get your hands on him, he certainly doesn't disappoint you. The young lady's ewe lamb here in second, a lamb that I like in terms of the way she's built and put together. She just needs to be a little bit bigger in terms of her overall skeletal size for me. But a lamb that's certainly made right. I just like to see her made right with just a little bigger package. And then the young man's lamb coming next, a lamb that just lacks that muscle shape and that terminal shape is what we see in the two lambs above him. A lamb that if I could make him a little bit more shapely out through that loin and that hip, maybe we could have considered sliding ahead of a smaller frame lamb, but I just need to see more terminal shape at this point. Very nice class of lamb. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
In Class 1 of Hampshire Market Lambs, first place went to Rainey Burge. Second, Hanley Everman. Third, Dylan Sutherland. Next up in the show ring is Class 2 Hampshire Market Lambs.
Really nice pair of market lambs here in this Hampshire class. The lamb I'm going to start with to be wins this class on the move. A lamb that comes out at you and certainly holds itself together pretty well when you get your hands on it. A lamb that certainly handles and touches really well. Handles with some dimension of muscle from that rack all the way back down into that lower leg. I think this guy just balances a little bit better when we get him out and put him in motion than the lamb here in second. The lamb here in second may be just a notch longer body, but when we get back and we start to study this guy and we get him in and put him in motion, he wants to drop that chest floor out. He comes apart just a little bit behind that shoulder blade into that forerib in comparison to our class winner. But another lamb that's certainly very good in terms of his type and his kind and his finish. Very nice lamb here in second as well. As we move down into third, a lamb that just simply gets outclassed a little bit by the lambs ahead of him. A lamb that certainly has some shape and some dimension. I just like to see this guy a little bit more attractive and a little bit of better touching today as far as that condition and finish goes. Then the young man here in fourth, the lamb that just simply doesn't have the terminal shape down that top line to move any higher today, but certainly productive in terms of that skeletal size. A nice class of lamb. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
Class 2 Hampshire Market Lambs, first place went to Greeley Eastep. Second place, Lane Parent. Third place, Hunter Haddon. And fourth place, Dylan Sutherland.
Another nice class of lambs. I guess at times it gets a little maybe discouraging. We get a really good lamb and it's hard to get a good look at it. This guy touches extremely well. He's got a tremendous amount of shape and dimension down that top, and certainly he gets out and he handles himself good enough in terms of that when we put him in motion, he just simply more pulled apart and has a lot more dimension at top, especially up through that rack, than anything else in this particular class. He handles extremely fresh. A very nice kind of a lamb to start this class with. I really wish he cooperated with the young lady, and I guess my suggestion would be is when you got one that this caliber, make sure that you do what you have to do to get him showed properly. And as we get into our second place, a lamb that the young man brought a pretty attractive kind of a lamb that I certainly like from a side view standpoint. We get behind this guy, he just simply doesn't have the goods to compete with our class winner. He gets a little narrower right up over the top of that shoulder. He gets a little bit narrower and pinched maybe a bit right there in that heart. I'd like to see him just opened up a little bit in terms of that rib cage to really lay a little more expressive rack on. But he certainly carries back pretty nice. Once we get back into that back 2/3, he handles pretty well. He's very three-dimensional. I certainly do appreciate his extension to that front. I just need to see a little bit more shape up there, up high, for me to use him any higher in the class today. As we get into third and fourth, kind of a tough placing for me as well. The lamb here in third maybe doesn't look quite as finely polished in terms of that fit job This lamb's pretty nice in terms of the shape. I like him in terms of that rack shape. I like him in terms of his body shape better than the lamb in fourth. He holds himself together pretty good when we get him out on the move, and I like him when he gets in tracks away from us. The lamb here in fourth, very nicely presented lamb. This guy wants to get a little piece here when we get him out and put him in motion. Maybe he doesn't track off those back legs as well. The young man's done a nice job with him. He just simply isn't holding himself together as well as I'd like to use many higher today.
Next up in the show ring is Class 4 Hampshire Market Lambs. In Class 3, first place went to Grace Carr. Second place, Brody Parent. Third place, Clay Adam. And fourth place, Parker Hacker.
Really nice class of heavier heaps here. We've got some lambs in here that certainly have a lot of quality, and it runs all the way down into this class. I think when we get out here and we start to analyze these, we're going to start with the two ewe lambs that to me are the heaviest muscles and still maintain the most appropriate condition in this particular class. The lamb we're going to start with, to me, is super heavy muscle, extremely good to the tuck. She's very correct in terms of that finish today. A lamb that I certainly like the way she balances out when the young man gets her set up. I would like to see her balance a little different when we get her out and we put her in motion. But a lamb that is extremely thick and extremely expressive, carries extremely deep down into that loin eye. Very nice kind of lamb here to start this class. As we move into second, a lamb I think most closely follows her in terms of that condition, in terms of that shape down that top. A lamb that I certainly appreciate that about. I would like to see her tie a little better from that shoulder back into that forerib. She's extremely opened up. Sometimes that happens, that cage doesn't line up quite right coming out of the top of the spine, but she's got a tremendous amount of product in her as well and still maintains a very fresh, very nice finish on her. The young ladies you have next, a lamb that's just really beautiful, and you get her out and you put her in motion. A lamb that I'd certainly like to be able to move higher in this class, but she just simply got too much condition on her for me today to be ideal in terms of mark. A lamb that's really getting pushing that upper limit over the rib and starting to lay it in quite a bit over into the flank, but a very nicely made kind of a lamb. As we move down the class, we get two lambs that I do like in terms of their structure. They just simply don't have enough muscle and dimension in this particular class to move any higher. They get a little bit deeper and do that chest and maybe don't have quite the shape when you do them from behind, but a nice class of lambs. Just give these kids a round of applause.
Next up in the show ring is Class 5 Hampshire Market Lambs. In Class 4, first place went to Parker Hacker. Second place, Lane Perrin. Third place, Morgan Berry. Fourth place, Kaylee Rowings. And fifth to Katie Fry. Congratulations.
interesting class here when we get into our heavy lambs. A lamb we're going to start with for a heavyweight lamb, he's relatively lean and he's really big in his kind. We're pushing that envelope of being too big, but he's still made really nice. The young lady does a really nice job with him. He handles really good, he's square, but a lamb that you certainly appreciate for his shape and his touch. He's enough meter when we get him out on the move and from the side, he's going to win this class in terms of from a structure standpoint. Young lady's lamb coming next. The lamb is just really profitable and productive in terms of his makeup. He's really big and stout in terms of his features. He gets a little coarser maybe through that lower portion of that chest, but a lamb that you certainly have to appreciate for the amount of volume and muscle that he has, and he certainly has a lot of growability. Young man's lamb coming next, just a little bit shorter in terms of his front end. I'd like to see him a little more extended, to use him any higher, but certainly a lamb that you have to appreciate for that width and dimension that he has. I'd like to see him, like I said, just a little bit more extended up to that front to use him any higher today. The young lady's lamb coming next, another lamb for this particular weight. Is finished very correctly. A lamb that just gets a little bit piecier in terms of his skeletal design, but a very nice lamb as well.
Next up in the show ring is Class 1 Hampshire Market Lamb pairs. And Class 5 single entry Hampshire Market Lambs. First place went to Keely Parent. Second place, Mackenzie McCullough. Third place, Seth Arians. And fourth place, Kaylee Rowings. Congratulations.
We've got three nice pairs out here, and we've certainly got some variables when we look at each one of them. We're going to start with the pair up here on my left, a really stout ewe-lamb, and the Weller I certainly like the way he handles. I'd like to see him handle those back legs different, move just a little bit different. But I think in terms of condition today and uniformity, I think they're the closest we've got. I think certainly a very nice pen of lambs to start with. As we move into second, we run into a little more disparity between the two lambs. We've got one lamb that's a little bit bigger and prettier and more extended, maybe not quite as much dimension to muscle. Then we've got a ewe lamb that's really opened up and maybe could be just a notch prettier up through that front. but both have a fair amount of muscle. They're correct enough in terms of their condition today. They're going to be a second place. And as we move down into third, we're just running to a pair that just simply give up a little bit too much in terms of muscle shape and dimension to move any higher today, but a nice class of lamb. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
Next up in the show ring are Horn Dorset Market Lambs. We have 2 entries in our 1 class, and then we'll be moving on to natural colored market lambs. So please have your natural colors ringside and ready. In our Hampshire pairs, first place went to Parker Hacker, second place Lane Parent, and third place Duclay Habit. Congratulations.
Horn Dorset Market Lamb class, we've got 2 lambs here that are certainly very nice, but to me the one handles this class pretty easily. He's really good to the touch, he's good to the handle, he's certainly got enough dimension and muscle. He certainly gives you a very nice silhouette from the side view standpoint. The young man's done a really nice job with him. Lamb here in second, the lamb is very profitable and productive in terms of his makeup. He just lacks some of that shape. He doesn't have the same kind of touch and finish today as what our class winner does, but a very nice pair of Horn Dorset lambs out here. Let's give these kids a round of applause.
In our Horn Dorset Market Lamb class, first place went to Tyler Wright, second place Brent Sheldon. Next up, we're in the natural colored market lamb division. After that, we'll be moving on to Oxfords and Shropshires, so be getting your Oxfords and Shropshires ready.
We're going to start with the young lady's Weather here, a lamb that I think to me is just a little bit stouter in terms of his makeup and his design. The lamb is probably a little more desirable in terms of that market weight today. He's certainly got a little more product. 2 lambs that are certainly very nice. The ewe lamb certainly very nice in terms of her design. I like her in terms of that front end. She just gives up a little bit too much in terms of of overall shape back to that loin and squareness out to that hip to compete with the weather above her today.
First place in your natural color market lamb class goes to Mallory Lambermont. Second place, Allison Skirvin. Congratulations.
Really nice class of Oxford market lambs out here. The new lamb we're going to start with, to me, kind of combines a look and handle today. A unit certainly extended enough in terms of her kind. She's really extremely fresh in terms of that handle. A lamb that I certainly like once I get my hands on her. A lamb that carries that back extremely good, probably down and as low in that leg as anything in the class. The young man's lamb coming next, the lamb that I like from a side piece point. Does a really good job getting her set up. Once again, a lamb that has a fair amount of, I'd like to see her maybe be just a nickel fresher to the touch today in comparison to our class winner, but a lamb that certainly to a lot of value when you get back and you really start to analyze this. And a lamb here in third, a lamb that I certainly like in terms of that extension up to that front. When we start to really study this guy, though, he just gets a bit too base narrow in comparison to the two that are ahead of him. He just doesn't have quite the shape and dimension of muscle as what I see in the class winner in the second place lamb, but a nice class of Oxford lambs. Let's give the kids a round of applause.
Next up is our Shropshire Market Lamb Show. First place in the Oxford Market Lamb class went to Briley Schmitz. Second place, Tyler Wright. And third place, Grace Scarr. Congratulations.
This Shropshire Market Lamb class, to me, we got a fairly easy winner. Young man's leather it's just really big and stout. He's certainly wide down that back. He's really powerful off through that hip and that leg. A lamb that certainly balances nice enough when we put him in motion. If I'm going to be critical of him, I'd like to see him touch just a little bit better today. He's just a little bit soft to the handle, but he's certainly got a lot of product there. He wins this class pretty easily. Young ladies, lamb coming next. The lamb is really neat and extended up to that front, but along with that comes just a little bit too narrow made. He just simply don't have enough base to carry the kind of width and dimension of muscle we'd like to see to get him around that weather ahead of him.
Entering the ring now are Southdown Market Lambs. First place in your Shropshire Market Lamb class went to Seth Arians. Second place to Briley Schmitz.
Next class is Southdown Market Lambs out here. We're going to start with a lamb that to me balances out by far the best of anything in the class. A lamb that I think when you get to out and study this guy, he's by far the widest in terms of his dimension and certainly widest out through that hip. He certainly carries down pretty good through that leg. A lamb that, as in a lot of times sometimes you do, a lamb maybe I'd like to just firm him up just a bit in terms of that touch. But when I get back and I analyze him and study him from the side, I like him as well as anything through that chessboard and in terms of his lines as well. Very nice lamb to start this class with. I think a real logical choice here in second to follow with. A lamb that's very similar in terms of his makeup, very youthful in terms of his appearance. A lamb that just gives up a little bit too much in terms of width up through that rack and out through that hip to our class winner. But certainly a very nice kind of a lamb in his own right. A real big extended kind of lamb here in third. A lamb that I certainly appreciate in terms of his length and spine. He just doesn't balance quite as well for me. He does handle pretty well in terms of his touch. I'd like to see him with a little more turn through that lower portion of that leg, but certainly a very nice kind of lamb as well in third. And as we move into fourth, another lamb that once again just doesn't balance quite as well for me. Gives up a little bit more dimension of muscle to the lambs above him, but certainly a very nice lamb in his own right. The young man's lamb coming next, a lamb is down, so we can just use some more time and some more feed. He's built pretty decent. The young man gets him set up and showing he's really got a fairly attractive silhouette. He just needs some more shape down that top to move any higher in the class today.
In our Southdown Market Lamb class, first place went to Grace Fry, second place, Grace Carr, third place, Adelia Thomas, fourth place, Justin Thomas, and fifth place, Dylan Sutherland. In the ring now is our first class of Suffolk Market Lambs.
Really easy class winner for me in this particular Suffolk class. The young lady's ewe-lamb that's just really, it's pretty nice when we get her out, we put her in motion. Lamb is certainly really elevated and neat in terms of her design. Certainly shows me a lot of terminal shape and still has a lot of width to base. Very nice kind of a lamb to start this class with. Lamb here in second, I think follows as close as anything in the class in terms of muscle shape. A lamb that has some expression down that top to see more dimension back to that leg, but a very nice, productive kind of a lamb as well. And the same goes for the lamb here in third. The lamb just gets a little flatter in terms of his muscle and shape and his design today. I'd like to see her a little bit more opened up and a little more shape from front to rear when we start talking down that top line. Same goes for the lamb fourth. Just simply needs some more shape and dimension of muscle to move any higher today.
In Class 1 for Suffolk Market Lambs, first place went to Rainey Burge, second, Mallory Sennett, third, Ethan Weller, and fourth, Maddie Weller. Congratulations.
to start the heavyweight summit class with this thicker made weather here. Lamb has really opened up in terms of that center body. He's really wide in terms of his base width. And when you watch this guy walk away, he's really wide in terms of his stance. That transfers all the way up. He's got a tremendous inner and outer portion of his leg. He's really expressing up through that rack, back through that loin, and really wide up to the top of that hip. A lamb that maybe could be just a tick prettier when you view him from the side, but certainly a lamb that you have to appreciate from a product standpoint. Lamb here in second, just a lamb that just gets a little narrower in terms of the makeup, but a lamb that's long and level and fairly extended in her neck. I'd like to see her with more natural thickness and muscling down that top line for me to use her any higher in the class today. But a very nice class of Suffolk heavyweight lambs.
This is our last class of Market Lambs for this afternoon. First place went to Grace Fry, second, Mallory Simmons. We will all reconvene at 7 o'clock for our grand drive.